Really shocking conclusion to Volume 9 of Berserk. I did not expect that type of conclusion with Casca and Guts, let alone how it ended up. Now, sadly enough, I cannot show you the specific pages in this volume because of the raunchy material that is in this volume. It's definitely not for children. For instance, anybody that's under 18, definitely, I can't show this to. And anyways, you know, with YouTube, I'm not allowed to show it. But anyways, pretty much, this entire volume has a lot of different aspects to Berserk we really haven't seen covered quite a bit yet in the series. I mean, you get a little bit of Guts' past coming back up in this volume, and then we see the downfall of Griffith as a character. So, right off the bat, I just want to start off from the beginning of this volume. I want to talk about Griffith, okay? That's a big central aspect of this arc, and I think I should cover him first. So, Griffith, after being dejected and pretty much figuring out that he really leaned upon Guts, when Guts walked out, a part of Griffith's dream left with him, it really made Griffith distraught, and he couldn't think. Like, for instance, he had no logical thought in his mind, so he decided to quell his rage, or his vengeance, or his sadness, or depression by sleeping with the princess of the entire kingdom. Now, here is the interesting part, okay? I constantly made theories and statements about how, you know, Griffith was going to eventually marry the princess. I stated that a lot, and it seemed very obvious that was going to happen. And so when I saw this first part of this volume unfold, it was pretty obvious that was eventually going to happen. So I was like, okay, nothing unexpected. But then, that is when the unexpected did happen. After Griffith pretty much had intercourse with the princess, okay, of noble blood, he got caught by, you know, the nobles, for instance, the king, the father of the princess, and we find out that the father loves his daughter in a sexual way. That is fucking disturbing. Very, 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 very disturbing. Because you actually see these, like, graphic images of the father pretty much trying to rape his daughter. And I'm like, what the fuck? It was just like, it was just really shocking. And it was like, it came out of nowhere. And I'm thinking, like, it kind of makes sense when they explain it. Like, for instance, when Griffith actually explains it in this volume. Let me see if I can actually find the page. Sadly enough, I won't be able to actually show you the page because of, yeah, you know, content. But, let me see here. Where did Griffith say it? Okay. You're taking a flower and plucked it. Let's see. Alas, my poor Charlotte. I brought her up for 17 years. She knows no impurity. Now that she's given herself up to a support of a commoner, I rather to have been with the princess. Okay, yeah, right here, pretty much Griffith says, don't you want her to have you? So, pretty much the father is, like, been alone his entire life for 17 years as he's raised his daughter. Now, we know that the original wife, for instance, the original mother to the princess died a long time ago, and the king remarried, had a political marriage, and we found out the queen was, you know, burned alive by the minister and Griffith's entire plot last volume. The princess looks a lot like her mother, and so the father, being very alone and never loving another woman besides his, you know, wife, his original first wife, he sees a lot of his wife inside of his daughter, and so, yeah, that's where it goes from there. He was a very overprotective father that eventually turned into lust towards his daughter, and I'm like, what the fuck? It's really unsettling what was in this volume, and it really is shocking how Berserk actually goes into those types of themes in this series. I am really shocked Berserk handled those type of themes, and it felt mature. It was a really interesting themes, and actually, it reminds me a lot of Game of Thrones. It really does. The way the themes are being handled with that entire scene, it really shocked me. Now, getting out the part with, you know, the father and the daughter situation and, you know, Griffith sleeping with the princess, the entire reason that happens after that, the king, of course, gets very jealous, he's upset, and he locks up Griffith in this dungeon. Griffith is being completely tortured. I mean, he's being tortured. Flat out being tortured, cut up. You see these spikes going through his freaking hands. And I'm like, oh my god. It looks really horrific. It's terrible looking. And Kentaro knows how to draw some gruesome looking art. It looked really badass. I mean, especially with how the drawings and the shading of the gritty nature of the images looked. But when you see Griffith getting tortured and all that, he lets out no screams. He doesn't ask for mercy. He doesn't scream. He holds that plain expression he's always had, like he's always the victor or he's the winner. He always holds that expression on his face when he's being tortured in this volume. And we find out the king doesn't want Griffith to die. He's going to torture Griffith for an entire year. An entire year he's going to be torturing Griffith, and that is really fucked up if we think about it. I mean, the torture he's going through in just a couple of months is absolutely insane. Like, when you see him getting just stabbed through, cut up, I mean, it just looks so, oh my god. But here's the thing. I want to find the exact quote in this thing that, in this chapter, or volume, I don't know why I'm saying chapter, that happened to Guts. For instance, Guts meets the skeleton in the forest. Now, the skeleton was on Volume 10. I remember seeing the skeleton on the cover of Volume 10. I'm like, ooh, that looks really badass. I was shocked to see the skeleton make an appearance in this volume. He makes an appearance literally right at the beginning. Here, I'll show you that. I can actually show you that. Look at the appearance of that skeleton. He looks pretty badass. But, the skeleton says, 1 year... And 1 year from now shall be the time of the eclipse. You and your friends, those yet unseen of the fleshless flesh, and that unkingly half of yours shall all be gathered, then in that place. A torrent of madness, a tempest of death, for which the human body can never atone, shall sweep over you. So, this Knight of Skeleton, that's what his name is, Knight of Skeleton. I don't know if that translation is correct or not, but once again, we have another demon stating that the eclipse is coming, and now we have a specific date when the eclipse is coming. It's coming in a year's time, and this is before like a 1 year time skip. We actually have a 1 year time skip in this volume right after when the Knights of the Skeleton talked to Guts in the middle of this mountain or forest. And it's really intriguing because now it seems like a bunch of these different demons know what the eclipse is, and like they know the potential in Guts. And I'm guessing this Knight of Skeleton talked to Zod, talked to him and told him about it, and probably told him about Guts, and that's why he arrived to once again warn Guts. But there's another interesting piece of dialogue I got from this volume about this entire conversation with the Knights of the Skeleton. It's very cryptic and like dialogue, but I think I understand what's going on here. Let me see. Struggle? No, that's not it. Okay. In the abyss of despair, only he who stands up with broken sword in hand, perhaps, ... So, I instantly, I think of Volume 13's cover. And now, Volume 13's cover, you see Guts holding Casca, like a naked Casca on Volume 13's cover, and you see in one hand a broken sword. His sword is snapped. And then in this volume, specifically, you'll see, Casca looking at the broken sword of Guts. Like, the sword Guts broke a while back, I think last volume or whatever. You'll see her holding that sword. So that sword is going to be used by Guts in Volume 13, I'm guessing, when the eclipse happens. Now, I still don't understand what the eclipse is. Now, I'm guessing it's going to be the Behelit. It's obvious it has something to do with the Behelit. It has something to do with demons, of course, and it's definitely got to do something with the God Hand. But the question is, how does it activate? What's going to happen? And is it because of the torture that Griffith is currently going through is what changes his entire mindset of how he looks at humanity in general? Because, I mean, when one man is locked up in a dungeon, you gotta think about, like, how much torture he's probably been through and how much your mind can really change. Kind of reminds me of some certain events I saw in Tokyo Ghoul recently when I was reading Tokyo Ghoul. Not gonna spoil it or nothing, but the entire events of torture reminds me a lot of that. Now, moving past that, Griffith and the torture and, I'm guessing the beginning parts with, the sex scenes, let's get to the central middle half of the volume. Pretty much, you see Griffith drop the Behelit in the sewer. For instance, in the dungeon, you see the Behelit fall into the sewer and it just goes off downstream, so the Behelit has separated from Griffith. So that's a big strange mystery right there. Like, how is the Behelit going to get to Griffith? Since the Behelit technically can't move. It's a living creature, but it can't really do nothing. It's harmless. Guts said that in Volume 1. It's a harmless demon, pretty much. So, I wonder how exactly the Behelit is going to get back to Griffith. Now, the middle part of this shows that the Band of Hawks pretty much get almost annihilated. Because after what happened with Griffith, you have the king initiate an order of the entire army to take down the Band of Hawks and kill them, and some survivors of the Band of Hawks actually escape. Casca and all our main characters we know from the Band of Hawks get out safely. Corkus, sadly enough, actually survives. I thought that bastard would have died, but I mean, sadly enough, he actually, survives. But you have Casca lead the charge of the Band of Hawks because of some awesome badassness she does. Like, you have these arrows, come in, and, she gets stabbed with, 5 arrows in all over her body, and you see her still leading the fucking charge of her army, charge, retreat, and all that, and she's leading the army of the Band of Hawks. That was such a freaking great moment. I love that so much. The artwork of that scene looks so freaking wonderful. Now, I want to talk about something I really did like, okay? One thing I really enjoyed about this was certain symbolism that was used, once again, in a volume of Berserk. I really love how Kentaro uses symbolism. I love it so fucking much. The dude that raped Guts, I think in Volume 2, if I remember correctly. Volume 2, Guts got raped by a soldier, one of his fellow comrades, one of his fellow soldiers, and how Gambino sold off his own foster son, technically, to this dude for, I think 1 gold coin or 1 silver coin or whatever. Well, you see Casca and Guts, the shocking conclusion of this volume. Guts and Casca actually have an intimate relationship at the end of this volume. You see them actually having intercourse, pretty much. And what's really shocking about this is that Guts instantly remembers his past when he technically was a virgin and got raped by that one soldier dude. He instantly remembers that soldier dude in his mind. And sadly, I wish I could show you the fucking thing, but it's too raunchy to show you. But anyways, pretty much he remembers the dude, okay? He remembers the dude that raped him. And he instantly, in his mind, he pictures himself as that dude when he's actually having sex with Casca. And I'm like, what the fuck? It's just, when you see that entire scene, he's actually remembering the past when he got raped, and he's picturing himself as the dude that was doing the raping, and he's looking at himself, his younger version of himself, and the younger version of himself is pretty much Casca, and he actually chokes Casca. He starts to choke Casca, and I'm like, oh, no, Guts, no, why are you fucking doing this? And so technically at first it looks like, Guts is raping Casca, but it doesn't go down like that. Casca understands. You have Guts finally break down for the first time since, Volume 2, pretty much. He actually tells his past, his backstory, what he went through to Casca, and then he actually finally opens up to her, and then you have Casca open up to Guts. So both characters, open up to each other. Now their relationship has grown a lot. Now they are truly they can kind of be considered a couple now. So I like the conclusion of this entire volume, because you have it to where Casca says that, I've left permanent scars on you, now leave a permanent scar on me. That was a really emotional scene. I really like how Kentaro used the wordplay with that and made the dialogue really strike home. And I love how you have, the different effects of the scarred bodies of, Guts and Casca. I love that. I love the character design of that. So, one thing, though. Guts, once again, proves how badass he is. He blocks swords with his bare fucking hands. You have this dude in this volume slinging chakrams at Guts, okay? And Guts literally, freaking blocks like a sword. He grabs a chakram by putting his finger through it, and he blocks the other one with his sword. I'm like, dude, Guts, you're too fucking badass. Why are you so badass? Why are you so badass you can block freaking swords and shit with your bare hands? It just, the epicness of Guts is just at an all-time high. I love his character. I really, really love his character, the way he acts and how he is. This series just gets better and better by the volume. It really does. The foreshadowing, the symbolism, the meaning behind the characters, and the emotional strive and the connections between the characters really hit home. And the hardships that all the characters had to go through. Casca's build-up with her character is really good. And so is Guts and Griffith. I don't even know what Griffith is most likely going to do now after the events of what happened this volume. So I am excited to see what is going to happen next. I am really excited because all the tension is building up, and I wonder what is really going to happen. Tell me your thoughts in the comments below. I love all of you so much. You have a wonderful day or night wherever you live. Please be safe. Chibi out.